me, my chief of staff, who's usually asleep during our segments, but he is joining us today. His name is Elijah. So let's jump right in. I'm so excited. I have about 6 topics that I wanted to definitely bring to our attention and just have some dialogue about it. As you know, always write your comments in the comment section so I can talk to you about what we are discussing, and let's just jump right into it. So the Blackout, live from New York with me, Tasemere's purpose is to celebrate Black folks across the diaspora and to have an open dialogue about Black economics, how we reimagine trends in business, and explore the magic we have. Today's segment, we will explore a few different topics. So we're going to definitely talk about how we can help our brothers and sisters in Haiti. How can we not talk about that today? The Great Resignation, which is now being coined. So we're definitely going to jump into that. Jay-Z and sport betting license. He definitely is doing some big things. We also need to talk about reparations for ex-cons as it relates to marijuana charges. There is a new messaging app for Pan-African commerce and the new Black Wall Street. And then this doesn't really have anything to do about our usual topics that we cover. However, I thought that it was going to be really interesting. People no longer want to have a gender on birth certificates. I just wanted to share that information with you guys. So let's hop right in. As you know, I like to share my screen. Hey, Chief of Staff, we need to focus on Haiti right now. As you know, I like to share my screen so you can see where I'm getting my content from. As usual, please, please, please write your comments and your thoughts in the comment section. Here we go. Let's jump right in. So here we go. Hope you guys can see my screen right here. The earthquake in Haiti was way worse than what we thought it was. And this article basically just jumps into what we know as some basic topics about the earthquake that happened in Haiti not too long ago, and how many people were reportedly dead, which is 1,941 souls that we have lost, and nearly 10,000 people are injured. And basically, this article goes into ways that we as a community can help the folks out in Haiti. So these are some websites that we can go to, Facebook pages, GoFundMe pages, to just be of help to the folks out in Haiti. I know that they're hurting right now, and they are willing to accept any kind of help possible. I definitely would have been remiss if I didn't bring this up in today's topic. You know, I like to keep us centered on what are current events that are happening across the diaspora of Black folks. So I just wanted to throw this out here in case anyone was interested in helping out the folks out there in Haiti. And now I want to jump into what is being coined as the Great Resignation. As most of us know, COVID has really changed our thoughts on just how we engage with work. And usually people here in the States is the only place that I can really speak of. We usually have a I need to work, I need to work, I need to work kind of mentality. And we usually put our home life and our personal life to the back burner. And now with COVID, a lot of folks are really reassessing what they are considering their work-life balance. And so people are really going into a more thought process of, I need to have balance at work. I no longer need to live to work, as what is quoted here at the bottom. I'll highlight it for you. So here we go. The Great Resignation has created a shift in corporate America from a live to work to a work to live culture, right? And we all know this. We all have seen it in some way, shape, or form. Either we are going through it ourselves, and or people around us are now like, hey, I don't need to work myself to death, right? I need to create some sort of balance. And she basically jumps into how you can try to establish a more work-life balance, right? Because this article was really going into the fact that Black folks are now opting into more remote work. And some Black folks are really into this whole idea of, I want to work from home, or I just want to work out of the office. Whereas we were really conditioned that we had to be in an actual working location in order to work. So these are some of her tips that she has to establish, work life boundaries. And I think that this is something that we usually feel is one of the hardest things to do, right? Like you're almost afraid to say no in some instances to your boss, but sometimes you need to. You don't need to always be on call for every emergency to put out every fire. She's also suggesting to set a schedule for your work hours and personal time and be consistent. That's also kind of hard, right? Sometimes you want to give in. That goes back to the first stage of not having boundaries. So, number one, we need to create some boundaries so that way we can stick to the boundaries that we have. Then she's suggesting to play to your strengths as you work on your to-do list and set deadlines. Again, this is all going into, you can't really play to your strength and set deadlines if you don't necessarily have a schedule, right? And if you don't have a schedule, you can't really create boundaries. And then lastly, she's talking about taking breaks, which I know when I was working full time was a little bit of a struggle. I didn't necessarily take my vacation the way that I was supposed to, because I was always very concerned about what projects I had coming up, if I was going to leave. And then when I would take a vacation, it was usually like a fake vacation. I'm still working, checking email because I'm concerned about what I'm going to come back to. And it's kind of like, when you're on vacation, be on vacation and just enjoy yourself. So now we're going to hop into Jay-Z and this Elijah. Really? Seriously? This is how you're feeling right now? We're going to hop into Jay-Z and his sports betting license, which I was unaware that he already had a sports betting license out in Nevada and in New Jersey until I read this article. So I will definitely share my screen here. So basically, Jay-Z is becoming an investor in this whole entity called, what was it? It's right here. My apologies. I'm a little frazzled dazzled because Elijah is all over the place today. Fantastics, right? So basically, he is saying that he now is into a sports kind of app, and this app will allow you to purchase any kind of sports wear or anything that you need for any kind of sport through this app. And this is really interesting because the gaming community and just industry is a lucrative industry. Right here, you see that sports gambling has generated roughly 1.5 billion across the country just last year, right? 1.5 billion. And now with Jay-Z's backing, he has helped to make a valuation of this company to $18 billion. This is amazing. I'm wondering, how is this going to transform, some of our outlets that we have grown to love to shop at? What's going to happen there? Is this going to be kind of like the end to Modell's, the same way that it was the end to Blockbuster? Really interested in understanding what's happening in the sporting arena and how these entertainers and athletes alike are changing the game as it relates to investing. And what does that really mean for our community? I'm really interested in watching this a little bit more closely. And as we have some updates, I will definitely bring them back here to you. Next, we're going to jump into reparations as it relates to marijuana. Now, this is another heavy topic here. Basically, we all know that people have gone to jail for very petty marijuana crimes, right? And more often than not, it's usually Black folks. And so out in Illinois, they are saying that they need to change these laws around marijuana charges for people that have already been convicted. Now that this is entering into another one of these multi-billion-dollar industries that people are making money off of the backs of Black folks that have been convicted of the same crimes that they are now making legal, they want to make sure that people don't have the stigma of going to jail for selling marijuana, right? And so they are really on the forefront trying to advocate to, have some sort of reparations for ex-cons, and they are really unapologetic about it. So in this article, you're basically reading and learning that here, the state of Illinois has topped $115 million last month, right? Last month in marijuana sales, setting a record of selling $116 million the month before, right? And this is basically a slap in the face, right? Basically, the government has come in, they have made it legal. We all know that usually in these states, in order to get a distillery license to even open up a dispensary to sell marijuana, you need hundreds of thousands of dollars in backing, and the application is usually very confusing, very hard for you to get into it. So basically, this is a white kind of industry now, right? So they have now monopolized this and have again cut us out of partaking in the industry that we have basically built, and we have been sentenced to prison time, and now some of our rights have been taken away, and they are saying that they need to have some sort of recourse, especially in Illinois is where they are. I'm sure more advocates are going to start cropping up around the country as this becomes more acceptable and states start making more regulations around it. From my knowledge, I know that the cannabis industry is a very money-driven industry, meaning that banks don't really know how to accept the money of this business, right? So basically, you are a cash flow business and you're walking around with this money in your pocket because the banks won't touch it because there's usually not enough legislation around how you can use it in banking. So really interested in seeing how this starts to turn the tide as more states begin to lessen their criminal activities around marijuana. How does this start to affect the people that have been most harmed? And so definitely want to hear you guys' comments. How do you feel about it? Do you think that there needs to be more activism around this? How are you guys feeling about the $115 million that was made in Illinois just last month, and the month before was 116 million. I mean, that's a lot of money. I wonder where that money is going and how is it serving the community. So just let me know what you're thinking. Now I want to hop into another topic here, which you guys know I love sharing my screen. So let me get my screen together. A guy who is a Nigerian American, he basically has started an app named Tribal, right? And it's a messaging app for Pan-African commerce. And he feels that he has this plan that we all have heard of in order to generate more money shared between the diaspora of Black folks. That's right, Elijah, that's what he's talking about. And so he has a strategy of how he would like to leverage it in order to create a new Black Wall Street. And of course, he is also in this article paying homage to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and wanting to know how can we kind of celebrate some of the teachings that we have already learned. And I want to get you guys' opinion about this because I think some of the things that he is proposing are great at the high level, but it may be a little challenging at the lower level. So he's definitely proposing things that we have already heard about, like leveraging Black customers, buying power. We all know that Black folks have one of the highest buying powers around the world. He's coining this figure of 1.4 trillion in Black customer base and buying power that he wants to leverage, that we somehow start to share this money with each other. And so he's also saying to promote and celebrate buying Black. We all know that we have seen an uptick in supporting Black businesses and buying back. Most of us know WeBuyBlack.com is a website that you can go to in order to really try to find some of your items that you need from Black folks. And then he's also saying to invest in tech, and that's where we are going to find some of our highest. Good morning, Art. Thank you. This is Elijah, my chief of staff, in case you guys missed it earlier. He's usually not on, he's usually sleeping, but today he decided to wake up, so I just have to add him into our discussion today. What do you guys think about it? I think that sometimes it's easier said than done, and I think that there are definitely platforms and just people at play that make it a little bit challenging, but I do think that it's on us to seek out Black sources where we can get our day-to-day and sometimes more extravagant things. He's definitely talking about an app. Yes, if Black people stop spending money in this country for one day, we would shut it down. I definitely agree. But I don't think a lot of people are going to I don't think we're going to get a lot of people. And that's one thing. How can we cultivate this into actually making our voices heard? I agree with you. I think the same way that if we just stop doing a lot of things for one day, people will definitely take us a lot more seriously. But how do we cultivate that? Who does this message need to come from? Because I know that we know what we need to do, but sometimes we just don't do it. So I'm interested in seeing how this translates. I'm sure that the founder of Tribal is working on probably a tech-based platform in order to try to make this happen. And how is it going to roll out? I know that I've seen a lot of folks coming up with different platforms, especially on Instagram, around buying Black. And so I wonder if they are going to all join forces together and create a whole big conglomerate, right, of this whole notion of buying back Black. And I think it's great to do it across the diaspora, because some things we can get a little bit cheaper in other countries, but then again, that brings in the whole notion of import export. So just really excited to understand, where this is going and how this might work. And then lastly, this really has nothing to do with my usual topics of choice. However, I found it to be very interesting. I'm going to share my screen for a moment. And the article that I found is basically talking about gender on birth certificates. The LGBTQ community is now pushing to remove male and female from birth certificates here in the States. And I thought that was very interesting. I know it doesn't really have to do much with the framework of this podcast, but I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention in case we start seeing some shifts happening later on in the coming years, that we know where this has started from. So I don't really have a whole lot of thoughts around. I think that that's kind of crazy. I personally like having male and female on birth certificates, but I know that we are moving into a more non-binary way of life, and people don't want to be referred to in some cases as male or female or his or her kind of thing. So I don't know if we're going to just start calling each other it. I'm not quite sure, but very interested in seeing how that evolves. And more importantly, what does that mean for Black folks? Because I always am interested in knowing that. This is Tasemere with the Blackout live from New York. Thank you for joining me today. I hope to see you guys here again next week where I will be sharing some more topics, articles that I have found throughout the week that I think relate to us as a community. As always, please share your comments in any of these platforms on Facebook and on YouTube, and definitely let me know if there's anything that you would like me to discuss further. This is Tasemere. Ciao.